Since 1961, thousands of faculty have shared their knowledge and expertise with our amazing students. And while not one of these individuals have walked the same path, we all have found one thing in common: purpose. We find meaning in our instruction that transcends beyond the classroom. For most of us, this is not a profession, it's a calling. This podcast captures the stories of some incredible faculty who continue to show up in today's evolving educational landscape. Welcome to Purpose, a Faculty Excellence Institute podcast.
Okay, this is so exciting. Welcome to the Faculty Excellence Ambassador Podcast, Purpose. We're here today with one of the most interesting people at South Campus who I have the privilege of collaborating with sometimes. He is not just a faculty, but actually a department chair. And maybe one of my favorite parts about him is he is a non-Texas.
That's right.
Not a Texas native, which is exciting. I think in Texas, people think all roads lead to Texas. But his roads started in a small town outside Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
And also spent some quality time in the cornfield in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm really excited. Welcome, Jeff McGee.
All right. Thank you, Leslie.
Department Chair, Fine Arts.
Fine Arts and Physical Education.
And Physical Education,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Fun fact, if you're listening, you know this, we like to just mix it up. So
Yeah, you never know.
Those athletes and artists belong together.
Right.
So we put them together.
There are surprisingly more similarities than you would imagine. So
That's true.
Yeah.
And thanks to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, we may edit that
there
out.
You go.
We brought the gym teachers
the culture.
And the artists together. So, okay, Jeff, tell us. It is always interesting to me when you have, I think I have kids who want to pursue different degrees, and sometimes there's a little bit of pushback when anybody wants to get into art,
right?
Because it feels like a high risk career choice.
That's right.
So walk me through the beginning, growing up in Buffalo, and honestly, like, how did you get into art?
Luckily for me, I have a first cousin, who is was in college when I was in middle school. And he was at Carnegie Mellon University, and he was there as a painter, and he was being successful. And my family, on my dad's side in particular, is just a creative group of people. Like, so I've got cousins up the wazoo in my generation in that family that are artists and opera singers and photographers and all kinds of things, right? Illustrators, musicians. And my cousin Jay was like this person who we all saw as like, oh, he's doing it. Here's a pathway.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like in 8th grade, I was like, I really want to do this for a career. That's when I decided. Like 8th grade was when I said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And, the next Christmas or birthday, I get art supplies instead of toys or comic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like there was this very encouraging nature about my family and my parents in particular. Like they didn't stifle any of my drive to do it. So by the time that I got through high school, I was, I was looking at universities and colleges and I saw the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, which is about 5 hours away from my hometown. And by the time I was done with my junior year in high school, I was already accepted for the next 2 years. It's a for-profit school. They're taking my money. That's fine. But it was an art school. And it was like this, Jeff's going to go do this, So it was a nice growing up to have that encouragement and to not have anybody ever tell me, hey, you probably shouldn't pursue this, right? Because you're not going to make any money. And that was never a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So I bring that to the classroom and I bring that to the students that I have now too. And I tell them that story. And I always tell them that it's okay to have a dream and to pursue your passion. Just be aware that not everybody who gets an art degree is going to have the word artist in their job title.
Yeah.
Like that's okay.
Yes.
Right? Not everybody who's a creative writing MFA is going to write creatively for a living. But what you're going to bring from that experience and from that degree is you're going to turn that degree into new and creative ways to think within whatever field you choose to be in. And that's kind of, even as a department chair, that's how I approach it.
And none of that is wasted. All right. So you're in art school. If you're honest, during those years, what did you hope you would end up
animator for Pixar.
Oh,
yeah, because Pixar was new.
Yes.
I graduated high school in '99, so Toy Story and Pixar was like the thing, the next phase. But what I didn't realize by the time I got out of that Art Institute of Pittsburgh was that the computer had taken over much of that industry. And I really was not interested in doing computer animation.
Yes.
So I was there for
different.
animation. I wanted to do traditional, Disney hand-drawn Looney Tunes types of animation. But I was not really interested in doing it on the computer. So I actually turned down a job offer right after school because I realized I didn't want to be in the animation industry. I went back to undergrad to get my bachelor's degree, and I found metalsmithing.
Yeah, tell us about the metalsmithing.
Yeah,
because if you don't know, Jeff is pretty famous for some pieces that he's done. He's worked under Gary Staub. Did I say that right?
Gary Staub Studios
who
in Kansas.
is infamous in Canvas for metalsmithing and for mace. Right.
So Gary Staub is a paleo sculptor.
Okay.
He is.
Very famous
I worked
sculptor.
for him for about 6 months right after grad school. And so he does work for National Geographic and large full-scale bronze dinosaurs and prehistoric animals, and it's all like scientifically accurate based on research, right?
Wow.
So that was a really good part-time job I had with him. I've worked for a blacksmith as a blacksmith assistant part-time while I was in grad school. It was just something that I found kind of by accident. I was going to go and do education. I was going to get a certified teacher job, bachelor's degree. And I took a metals class because it was the only thing I was allowed to take as a transfer student because I transferred in late. And they said, well, that's the only thing available, so you got to take it. And I said, I don't want to take it says called jewelry and metalsmithing. I don't want to take this class.
I'm making earrings.
I don't even know what it is. I don't want to make jewelry, like I'm a guy or whatever. I had that mentality about it.
You'd end up at a Renaissance festival with a little, like a flea market.
It just didn't make sense to me at first. But then I got into class and I'm like, oh, I can take everything that I've learned as an illustrator, as an animator, as a storyteller, visual storyteller, and I can apply it to this material that actually I'm pretty good at doing this work, and I find it interesting, and I can get better at it. And so it just kind of became my field. So I never was exposed to it until I got into my second school in undergrad. So,
I do think it's such a cool thing. I hear people a lot say, you may end up in a job you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And I think you ended up in this area of art that you didn't know existed just because you took a class.
That's right.
Which is so cool.
And then you get into it, and now I don't even touch metal because now my job is to answer emails all day, and schedule classes,
Yeah, so walk us through the pivot. So you're so passionate. You find metalsmithing. You're loving it. You go to grad school in Kansas. The basketball
University
Mecca.
of Kansas. Go Jayhawks.
And
Rock Chalk Jayhawks.
where you get to see the greatest basketball players and coaches ever.
And I was there during the national championship too. I was working at a bar when they won the national championship. It was great. Yeah.
Do you talk about that a lot? Do you feel like do you find most people know? Like, what year would that have been?
It would have been
Mario Chalmers?
03 or not 03. 7 or 8. 06 or 07, somewhere
Bill
in there.
Self was fairly new his first 5 years.
But my wife and I met in grad school there too.
Wow.
So, I still have a lot of friends and connections there. And we always talk, like, we have not been back in a long time. We're like, we got to just swing by Kansas someday,
Yes. Yeah.
Because what a great little town. If you've never been to Lawrence, Kansas, it is the quintessential college town.
Yeah.
Right? It is
maybe
exactly
the College
that.
Station of Kansas. Is that fair?
I've never been to College Station, so I don't know.
You gotta
go. Next time.
I've got a kid there, so now I'm learning. But college towns are great. If you get the chance to experience them at any age, I just am a big fan of college towns. So you're working in a bar, doing what every, I think, faculty member's backstory involves to some extent. Working, studying, killing yourself doing projects, hustling.
Working at a bar, teaching as a TA, and literally spending all night, day and night at the studio in the metal studio. Making pieces and then when you get out of it you realize, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And I started applying. I applied to over 150 jobs before I got this job at San Jacinto College. It took me a year and a half, Luckily, I only adjuncted for one semester. We all have been through that hustle,
Oh,
but I never
gosh.
had to do that hustle, the adjunct hustle.
So lucky. Just the
And
one.
yeah, and I had, those art assistant jobs, and I worked as a docent at a steamboat museum in downtown Kansas City for a little while. So I found avenues to work adjacent to the field. And then once I got the job at San Jac in 2011, it was like, okay, well, I've been applying for a year and a half. I've done,
Wow.
dozens of interviews and a couple callbacks and things, but this place stuck. And it just made sense.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Yeah. Give
yeah.
us kind of what drew you to San Jac. What did you really like when you were interviewing? Or
So there was a question by Rich McKay, our South Campus librarian. He was on my search committee. Tanja Connerly, Rich McKay, Martin Nugg. Here's some name dropping
yeah.
here. So Rich McKay asked me a question. He goes, "This room is a sculpture. It's a sculpture. We want you to stop the interview and critique this sculpture that we are sitting in right now."
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's an interesting perspective. I've never, I'd done interviews and phone, like, wow, okay, like that's cool. So I critiqued the room, and lo and behold, that my response to that question, because I was enthusiastic about that question, that was probably the reason I got the job.
Wow.
Because it was like they didn't know who I was. I'm from out of town. Like, we got to bring this guy in and all this. But because I answered that question with gusto, and I was not afraid of that question, and I didn't side eye the question,
Yeah.
they appreciated that, and that's what Rich has told me that after the fact, and I was like, you know what? But let me tell you, that's the best question I've ever gotten.
Wow.
After interviewing for a year and a half for a job, and so I think that, and that too, you had the question about what drew me here. Well, initially it was, I'm just looking for a job, and I applied at Qatar. I applied internationally.
Just need a door to open.
Yeah,
It's the
I needed
2000s.
anything.
Everybody's struggling.
Yeah, it was 2008, recession had happened and all that. But coming to Houston, it was really interesting to me because I come from a small town in Western New York where everybody is white, Protestant, or Catholic.
Right.
And we had one non-white family. And we had two. There was one black family and two Asian adopted children that lived with white parents. Everybody else in my high school was white Protestant or white Catholic.
Wow.
And that's fine, right?
It's your normal,
but that's just
right?
what I knew,
Yep.
right? And then I come to Houston and I look around and I go, wow, this is the most diverse place I have ever set foot in.
Wow.
And I really I appreciated that so much. And I told my students, you guys have no idea where you live. Like, because me coming from the opposite end of that and not knowing the benefits of that was, it was just something I felt like I had to share with my students who lived in it their whole life and didn't really understand what was around them.
Yeah.
What a gift. That's right.
Yep.
It is a gift to be in a place like this where all of it is at your footsteps if you just go do it and you want it. And that was not where I grew up. I had to drive an hour to go to Walmart.
Wow. Yep.
We
both
right?
grew up in small towns.
Yeah.
It is interesting that and it changes your outlook, your perception.
That's right.
I was thinking when you were talking about answering that question, the great Warren Buffett said you should always hire people with intelligence and energy and integrity. Those three things are kind of the magic formula. And I think energy we've repackaged to say passion or why.
Sure.
So you take all those experiences, you bring them into the classroom. What was your early years of teaching like? You are one of the most collaborative people. So tell us a little bit about what your collaboration projects were early on.
Yeah. So actually, what led me to that was my graduate thesis was a collaborative metals project. So it's a puppet suit worn by a dancer who performs live for my show, right? So I brought that experience into this place at San Jac, and I looked around in the building, and the South Fine Arts Building has dance and theater and art, and at the time music was there too. And I did a collaboration with Lynn Brandt and Diane Cahill-Bedford, who was the dance professor, and Lynn is now my colleague as the chair here at Central. But we did a collaborative project within the first 2 years of working there. We just said, hey, let's do this, and it actually was performed by a dance student at Rice University. Lynn chose the music, and it was just this great,
really cool
situation, right? And then I looked around and I did a theater show called Purple, where my students carved masks based on mythologies. They did some research into mythologies. They got to choose a myth, carve a mask out of wood for this myth. And then the mask was then derived into costuming for a theater show that was built from the ground up called the Devised Performance. And so the theater students built this show, 1.5 hour long show, based on 12 masks that were carved in my class. And I was really heavily involved with that, and I designed the set and stuff. So
cool.
Yeah. So that was from the start.
I think too, you would say this, and I think one of the greatest things that you offer to all of your faculty is really just what you said. I have an idea. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things about working at San Jac that we both experience is there are not a million hoops to jump through all the time. There's a lot of freedom, a lot of autonomy.
That's right.
If you say, I love this, I have this idea, I'm thinking, then you have people who support you say, okay, let's do it.
That's right. And I think you and I have become friends through that shared sweat equity.
Yes.
Trauma. Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes it is a passion, the passion to do it drives you. But sometimes you look back and go, wow, there's a lot of work, you know. But then you moved on. The thing is done. Let's do the next one, right? I've started working with Abby Grubala in honors and doing projects with her and honors research projects that I design posters for and stuff. And
yes, and you're still designing. I mean, if you are listening and you're watching this, Jeff designed the Faculty Excellence Institute logo.
That's right.
He's still doing all those creative outlets. You shift into department chair, and I will say, I'm just going to go ahead and give you your flowers. But one of the coolest things about getting to collaborate on story events with your theater people is all the headache of how do we fund this or what are the forms. You just take care of that so that the people that are excited and have the ideas can just run and not get buried in
I appreciate the recognition on that.
So
honestly,
it is the most helpful to say, I'll handle the form or I'll handle the finance. And I think that's, as a department chair, it's such a gift that you do that and let all the artists be artists. Yeah. And say, I'll handle this part because you know what that's like. Right. And you don't want to hinder their creativity. So what's fun for you right now as a department chair? As a department chair, this group has been this Faculty Excellence Ambassadors. I will say, I mean, just honestly, having this platform to do the event we did last year and now these podcasts is kind of re-energized my college service passion a little bit, because it's a college service that I can get behind, that I feel that I have control over. Right? Yeah. There's so many things as a chair and even as a faculty member that you don't have control over, and you must follow a certain regulation or a form or whatever. And I have learned as a chair to get through the minutia quickly so that I can focus my energy on stuff like this. Yeah. And so what I'm getting out of being a chair has been focusing energy on helping projects move forward, right? Whether that's within my department or whether it's part of this in the district-wide groups that I'm on. We have a department chair home SharePoint site that is designed just for department chairs, that I'm a part of that group. And, it's at this point in my career, I've been a chair for 7 years. I was a faculty for almost 7 years. And I did the gallery for 2 years of that too. And so I've worked my way through this institution enough that I don't have to solve many problems. I just figure out my avenue to the solution. Right. Right. And I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it does to me. Yeah. There's something kind of magical, I think, in normal. I study relationships and communication, but they always joke about a 7-year itch. And I study organizations. And I think you feel that at the 7-year mark where you kind of have to get through that. The adrenaline of learning has worn off, the adrenaline of understanding, and now you kind of settle in. And it is so nice to have people in leadership at the college who will make space for people who have ideas and new faculty. And I think that idea, and that's the hope of this podcast, is that we would go, hey, you were created to do art and to make art, and now at a meta level, you get to make space for more people to do that.
Right.
And then also that we get to have this sort of iron sharpens iron. What projects are you doing? And making space for students to have opportunities that they would not have on a massive campus or that they couldn't afford for whatever reason. And so it's exciting to make the barrier to entry low for them, if that makes sense.
I think that's a great segue to, when we designed the South Campus Gallery, that was my brainchild, right? We had an empty room. Music had moved to Central. We had a big empty room in our building it was just full. It used to be full of band equipment, and now it was nothing in it.
Wow.
And we looked around and we said, man, all we have is a closet for a gallery. Wouldn't it be great if that big room was the gallery?
Oh.
And so the gallery we got approved, it renovated, we had a space. But the whole goal of that space was to create professional industry level exhibitions and bring in entry level exhibitions that were accessible to these students, because we knew they weren't driving into past the Beltway.
That's
I mean,
true.
I didn't even realize what the Beltway was when I got here. And then I realized what a barrier it really was when I started teaching art appreciation. And I would tell them, you're required to go to a museum. And they all looked at me in horror, like, what are you talking about? I have to go to the museum district
and
and park.
Pay toll and pay parking.
That's right.
And then also navigate the city.
And to me, that was like it didn't make any sense to me. But the longer I'm here, the more I realize it, because I live outside of the Beltway.
Yeah.
And now I go, do I want to go in
It's a lot of
or
work.
not?
Sit in traffic.
Right.
It's a lot of time. And
it's a decision, right?
Right.
And so we still force them to do it, but now luckily most of the museums are free to students and things like that.
That's
so
true.
the barriers are kind of going away there. But it is nice to, we brought in the Houston Museum of Natural Science twice to do exhibitions in our space at South Campus.
Yeah.
Real artifacts.
I'm thinking as you're talking about Bradley Brown, who's the gallery art director, who I love bringing students to. If you're a faculty member on South Campus, shameless plug.
Yeah.
Find out what they're doing and go take your students. Whatever exhibit is happening, I promise it will be interesting and fascinating to students, and it will be one of the most favorite things they do the whole semester. I do it every semester, no matter what it is. It doesn't, and the brainchilds that have come out of that are awesome. And also, I feel like an ambassador for student artwork. So at South Campus, they have a repository of this artwork that students have done, and there's a catalog. Mm-hmm. And I actually have 3 art pieces hanging on my wall in my office. Nice. One I paid for when I didn't know if you could do that. When I was an adjunct
we used
at North,
to be able to do that.
I just went and found out who painted this coffee can from New Orleans and said, I need a painting of a coffee can on my wall. So I paid for it. It was in my house for a long time, and then it's in my office now. But I have 2 pieces of art that I don't own, but I just requested be hung.
On loan.
And they're on loan. And so any faculty member can have a student's artwork hanging in their office. Right. So I tell as many people, if you need something,
we love it.
It's an awesome thing for the student to know that their artwork isn't just in a closet somewhere. And
we do a student juried exhibition every spring in the South Campus anyway. Central and North do it a little differently, but what we do is a democratic jury. So we have a faculty and staff vote, and then we have a student vote. So there's those winners that win those votes, we then tell the students, like, if you want, we will buy this work for you, and it will become part of the permanent collection. So that's what you're talking about.
So these are the winners.
These are these are the winners of the shows that we have taken department funds and given it directly to the student in exchange for that artwork. And then they can put on their resume that I won an award, I was in an exhibition, and I'm in a permanent collection. Yeah. So they get 3 lines on their resume, which is such a hard thing for students.
And we're just trying to help them sort of discover their own pathway and build bridges to success.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so interesting, and hopefully we'll have more art people on. I know we've got your people are the best people, and there's when I look at from Bradley to Janelle to Jamie, who are all doing great things, it starts at the top. So we know that they do a lot because you're a good leader. So let's do a couple fun questions before we go. We'll fly through these a little bit. All right. Ready. Go to wake up drink.
Unsweet black iced tea, no sugar, no water.
Oh, specific.
Don't water my tea down, please.
All right. Do you have a favorite class you've ever taught?
Design 1, actually. Two-dimensional design. It's a fundamental class and a foundational studio art class, but it keeps me in check as an artist.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite artist?
Probably Lee Monaco. She's from the 50s, and she did some metal sculptures with canvases. She's not widely known, but she's known in the art world.
In that space.
Yeah, within the fine arts world, she's well known. Yeah.
We'll see the art theme. Do you have a favorite book about art you've ever read?
The Neanderthal's Necklace.
Nice.
So,
all right. Something that would surprise people to know about you.
I'm a better than average bowler.
Oh.
And I grow loofah in my backyard for fun. So
The loofah.
The loofah.
We can't rabbit trail down the loofah, but you should just Google growing loofah, and it grows okay here.
Yeah, it's just great. It's a subtropical vine, turns into a gourd that you can turn into a sponge.
I gotta get my girls on this.
Come
All
on,
right,
stop by.
okay.
I'll give you some.
All right. And growing up, who's your favorite teacher?
Oh, man. Probably my art teacher in high school, Miss Conover-Lore.
And where's Miss Carnival?
Last I knew, she was teaching at a private high school. She had moved into that world. And, it was a public high school. I went to local public high school. But she was the first one that showed me what the real art industry was like. I had another art teacher in high school, too, Mr. Titi, who was great. But he was more local, kind of country world. He wasn't expanded out beyond our little local thing, but she knew more about the city life and how the art world worked on the grander scale. And so both of them were inspiration, but she was the one that pointed a light to the reality of working in this industry.
Nice.
So,
All right. Well, shout out to all the teachers.
Go teachers.
Who are showing us new worlds the time. So exciting. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, and stay classy, San Jacinto.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Purpose, a Faculty Excellence Institute podcast. Join us next time as we hear from one of our inspiring faculty. Keep doing great work and stay classy, San Jacinto.